In front of me is a whole stack of orders I've received up until today. And from all of that, I'm putting together a $550 PC build. What makes it special is that every single part is from AMD. And yes, every component was bought on eBay. In this video, I'm going to show you each part and explain why I chose it. But there's one thing you need to know. I'm not a professional PC builder, so this isn't a tutorial or a guide you should follow step by step. This is just me having fun, building a budget AMD machine, and sharing the journey with you. The first CPU I picked for this build is the Ryzen 5 5000. I got it for just $76, and the best part? It even came with the stock cooler. That instantly saves me the cost of buying an aftermarket one. And honestly, this chip doesn't run hot enough to need a fancy cooler anyway. With a 65-watt TDP, the stock fan keeps it cool and quiet just fine. At this price point, you're not going to find a better 6-core, 12-thread CPU. Even older i5s or those retired Xeons can't really compete with it in gaming performance today. Another bonus is that the AM4 ecosystem is still huge. There are tons of cheap motherboards still floating around, easy to find, easy to upgrade, and perfect for budget builds. Overall, this is a super solid choice for anyone building a budget PC that still wants smooth 1080p gaming. For RAM, I grabbed two 8GB sticks of DDR4 3200. 8GB, so 16GB total. And I only paid $50 because they're used. Why go this route? Simple. The price of new RAM has been skyrocketing lately. Some brands literally doubled their DDR4 prices in just a few weeks. But for gaming, 16GB is still the sweet spot for smooth 1080p performance. For storage, I picked up a 256GB NVMe SSD for $23. With the recent surge in AI demand, the big manufacturers have been hoarding NAND and DRAM like they're stacking gold bars, and SSD prices have been rising fast. So whenever I spot a cheap NVMe drive like this, I grab it immediately. It's basically like buying vegetables before the market raises the price. For the motherboard, I went with the B450MA Pro Max 2 for a clean $100. It's a solid board of no drama, no surprises, and the best part? When you drop a Ryzen 5500 into it, it actually boots. No midnight BIOS rituals, no sacrificing thermal paste to the tech gods. Sure, it only has 2 RAM slots, but I'm not trying to build a space station. I just want my games to run. The VRM are stable, NVMe support is fast, and the price? Way better than paying the Intel tax just to have your motherboard stare at you with attitude. Cheap, reliable, and doesn't judge your life choices. That's my kind of board. For the power supply, I decided to live a little dangerously. I picked up a used 750-watt Cooler Master unit for $46. Yeah, buying a used PSU is basically rolling the dice with your entire PC. But at least this one's from a real brand, not some Fire Dragon 750 watts. Special you find on Amazon for $20. If you've got the budget, definitely buy a new PSU. Your components will literally thank you. But for this build, I'm embracing a little risk, a little adventure, and hopefully zero fireworks. Alright, let's talk about the real MVP of this entire build. The RX 6700 XT 12GB. I picked this thing up for just $214, used, which honestly feels borderline illegal, but thankfully, it's not. This card absolutely destroys 1080p and even 1440p gaming. You're getting performance that brushes up against an RTX 3060 Ti without paying the NVIDIA emotional damage tax, and 12GB of RAM? In 2025, that's not a flex, that's survival. Modern games inhale RAM the same way Americans inhale gas station snacks. But the best part? Buying it used means someone else already paid full price for my happiness. I just get to enjoy the frames. And trust me, this thing prints frames. And to wrap the whole build together, I grabbed a gaming case for $40. Nothing crazy, but it already comes with 2 front fans and 1 in the back, which is basically 3 free gifts in 2025. It's cheap, it's spacious enough, and it saves me from turning my room into a toaster. Alright, let's get into the build. We're gonna start putting everything together step by step, nice and clean. First thing I'm gonna do is remove the stock cooler bracket on the motherboard. Gotta take that off so we can install the mounting hardware for the new cooler. Once that's out of the way, I'll drop the CPU into the socket. Just line up the little arrow on the corner with the marking on the board. If it's in the right spot, it'll just fall into place. No need to push, no need to force anything. Next up, thermal paste. And don't overdo it. A lot of people think the more paste you use, the cooler the CPU will run, but it's actually the opposite. The whole purpose of thermal paste is just to fill the tiny microscopic gaps between the two metal surfaces. The best heat transfer is still metal touching metal. If you put on too much paste, the two surfaces don't really make proper contact. On top of that, the paste can spill out over the edges, which looks ugly and, depending on the type of paste, could even cause short circuits. So yeah, you only need a little bit in the middle. Just a small dot, yet when you mount the cooler, it'll spread out on its own. The next step is also really important when you're building a PC. I'm going to put all the components together, but not inside the case yet. Testing everything before it goes into the case saves a ton of time in case something goes wrong. Trust me, this step can save you from a lot of headaches. First, I'll test the power supply. I'm using a small jumper wire to connect pins 4 and 5. If the fan spins like this, that means the PSU is working just fine. Next, I'll check if the whole combo actually boots. Motherboard, CPU, RAM, everything. And luckily, nothing unfortunate happened. Everything powered on normally, all the components were detected, and the board recognized everything without a problem. Alright, now things get a lot easier. All we have to do is drop everything into the case and put it together as quickly and cleanly as we can. And once that's done, not gonna lie, it looks pretty good, right? Luckily, the GPU actually fits in this case. That was a bit of a gamble, but oh man. I completely forgot to install the I/O shield. Classic mistake. No worries though. I'll fix that real quick. Alright, now everything is finally perfect. So let's jump in and see how this build actually performs in some real games. Alright, first game on the list is CS2. I'm testing it on high settings, and for today's benchmarks, everything is running at 1080p. I feel like that's the most realistic and optimal resolution for this PC in 2025. FPS stays well above triple digits, super stable. Even when I crank the settings all the way up, there's no noticeable frame drop at all. Right now, it's sitting around 140 FPS, give or take. Both the CPU and GPU are working really nicely together too. No signs of bottlenecking, no weird spikes, nothing that drags performance down. Next up, we've got a pretty demanding title, Black Myth Wukong. I'm running the game on high settings, and during combat with NPCs, the overall performance is actually really impressive. The average frame rate stays around 70 FPS, which is totally playable and feels great during fights. When I turn on FSR3, the FPS bumps up a little. Not a huge jump, but definitely noticeable. The more important part is the image quality. It becomes sharper, smoother, and just overall cleaner to look at. Moving on to Battlefield 6 at high settings. In this game, the CPU definitely starts to become the bottleneck. There's just a ton of stuff happening on screen. Bullets flying everywhere, explosions, particle effects, so the processor has a lot to handle. Even with that, the FPS still stays pretty solid at around 70 FPS. And honestly, for a build at this price point, it's really hard to complain. Once I turn on FSR, the frame rate jumps all the way up to around 130 FPS, which is a massive boost. And with 12 GB of VRAM, this GPU handles modern games pretty comfortably without running out of memory. The Witcher 3 also delivers some really impressive numbers here, hitting around 140 FPS. That shows this PC is actually pretty well optimized for heavier, graphics-intensive titles at 1080p. The only thing to note is that this GPU does pull a bit more power. It sits at around 170 watts when it's running at full load. Temperature-wise though, it stays totally under control. Roughly 70 degrees Celsius, which is perfectly fine for a modern GPU. Switching over to another game that leans heavily on the CPU, we see the opposite behavior. While the GPU likes to sip power, the CPU is surprisingly efficient, using only about 40 watts even under load. And it still keeps the frame rate steady at around 100 FPS in pretty much all situations. So if you're aiming for a solid, no-nonsense 1080p experience without spending a ton of money, this setup is definitely worth considering. And that's the build I put together for my friend. If you think there's anything that could be improved, feel free to drop your suggestions down in the comments. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.